The fact that there were 10 bodies found in one area makes me feel like they're linked. How could it not be? The man who picked her up looked like an ogre. He's calling these poor young girls 16, 17, 18 times in a row. The pizza crust was actually what got him arrested. It was weeks that the media stood there every single day. There were bulldozers, there were crime scene vehicles. He had guns in the house, up to 200. Detectives found a planning document. It was a basically how to kill guide, going through every possible scenario once he met the victim until they were dead. This is Murder Maps.
Today, we will continue to plot out every detail of the Gilgo Beach murders on a map.
Rex Heuermann is innocent until proven guilty. This is Long Island South Shore, and we're looking at Nassau and Suffolk counties. Now, let's take a closer look at the victims.
10 sets of remains were discovered in the search for Shannon Gilbert along Ocean Parkway. When her body was discovered, that number bumped up to 11.
In this investigation leading up to his arrest, there have been 11 sets of remains recovered. So Maureen Brainard Barnes was a single mom from Norwich, Connecticut, trying to just make some extra money to pay her rent. I understand that she was possibly getting evicted from her home. So she went out to meet Rex Heuermann in 2007, and she disappeared. And Maureen was actually the only victim that was not wrapped in burlap of the Gilgo Four. The fact that Maureen was not wrapped in burlap makes me think that the serial killer learned that he needed to hide his victims better. So Maureen was contacted 16 times before she vanished, and the person that was calling her was calling from a burner phone. So Melissa Barthélemy was originally from Buffalo, and she was living in the Bronx at the time she disappeared. She had dreams of becoming a hairdresser, and one night in 2009, she vanished.
In the weeks following Barthélemy's disappearance, her sister began receiving phone calls from a man using Melissa's phone. The calls continued for weeks. In one call, the caller told the young girl that he had killed Melissa.
Megan Waterman was 22 and one of the youngest victims. She traveled from Maine to Long Island, where she was contacted on a burner phone. She was last seen leaving the Holiday Inn Express in Hop Hog at 1:15 a.m. and hasn't been seen since.
Megan Waterman was a 22-year-old mother from Maine, working as an escort. On June 5, 2010, she was contacted by a burner phone. The following day, at 1:31 a.m., she was contacted by the same burner phone. There is security footage of her leaving a Holiday Inn Express in Hop Hog, Long Island, around that exact time. She was never seen alive again.
So Amber Lynn Costello was 27. She was living with two other roommates in West Babylon, Long Island. On the night she went out with Rex, one of her roommates actually saw her getting picked up in a Chevrolet Avalanche and drove off. Once Amber disappeared, the roommates gave police a description of the car that she was picked up in.
Costello's roommate played a key role in helping identify a suspect in these disappearances. He described one of Costello's clients as having an ogre-like appearance and driving a Chevy Avalanche, which became critical in the investigation to come.
Amber Lynn's disappearance becomes crucial to the investigation, and we're going to get to that later.
Maureen Brainard Barnes, Melissa Barthélemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello are known as the Gilgo Four.
Those women were the Gilgo Four, and this is where their remains were found. Along Ocean Parkway in Gilgo Beach.
By May 2011, police had discovered 6 more sets of remains in the same area, bringing the total up to 10.
After the Gilgo Four were discovered, 6 more bodies were discovered in the area. The Manorville Two, which was Valerie Mack and Jessica Taylor. Then there was a woman named Peaches and her toddler daughter, and then Asian Doe, which was known to be a biological male, but a cross-dresser. And then finally, Karen Vagata, who was 34 and also known as Fire Island Jane Doe. since part of her remains were in Fire Island and part of them were found on Ocean Parkway.
Since the taping of this interview, the victim known as Peaches was identified by authorities as 26-year-old Army veteran Tanya Denise Jackson. Her 2-year-old daughter was identified as Titania Mary Dykes, born in Texas on March 17, 1995. Forensic artists created renderings of the victim referred to as Asian Doe, seen here. They were biologically male and found wearing women's clothing. It is possible they identified as female. At the time of this recording, their identity is still unknown.
The fact that there were 10 bodies/remains found in one area along Ocean Parkway in Suffolk County makes me feel like they're linked to the same person. How could it not be? Many of the victims that were found were bound, either with a belt or tape, and they were also wrapped in burlap. Now, the burlap is supposed to blend in with the natural vegetation that was surrounding the area, so they would not be seen.
About 6 months later, in December 2011, Shannon's body was found. A year and a half after she went missing, the 11th woman discovered along Ocean Parkway.
18 months after Shannon Gilbert disappeared, her body was located in Oak Beach, right here. Here are the 11 victims that were found. Rex Heuermann has only been linked to 7 so far. Okay, so we are looking at the area where Rex lived and raised his family, and Midtown, where Rex's office was located. Then we are looking at South Carolina, where Rex apparently had some property and where he hoped to retire to one day. And we're also looking at a larger map of the tri-state area: New York, New Jersey, Long Island, Yonkers. Let's take a look at the investigation.
Amber Costello's roommate was key in identifying a suspect in the case. His description of an ogre-like man driving a Chevy Avalanche was a major breakthrough.
The night that Amber Lynn was picked up by her date, her 2 male roommates happened to see a car picking her up. This car was a first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche, which is an unusual make and model. And police were interviewing the roommate once Amber Costello vanished, and they realized that they had a serious problem. The roommate gave the police all this information about how the man who picked her up looked like an ogre. Just dark hair, light eyes, massive, heavy build. And basically, the police took all this information but never did anything with that for a while.
Police took a closer look at Costello's phone recordings from 2010. They discovered that a burner phone had called her incessantly around the time of her disappearance. The same is true for the other women in the Gilgo 4. With help from the FBI, they determined that most of those calls connected to cell towers inside a small area of Massapequa Park, Long Island.
All the victims from the Gilgo 4 were contacted on burner phones, and at one point, these calls that came in were incessant. For instance, Maureen got 16 calls in a row, which is terrifying. Police determined that many of the calls from the burner phone were traced to this area in Massapequa Park, right near Rex Heuermann's home.
Police soon discovered that Rex Heuermann fit the description of an ogre-like man, lived within the area where those burner calls were made, and drove a first-generation Chevy Avalanche. They discovered the Avalanche parked at another property he owned in South Carolina.
So Rex Heuermann was found to have had property in South Carolina. The area is where he obviously spent some time at and planned to one day retire, and that is where police located his car. This is a map of South Carolina, and Chester is the town near Charlotte where Rex Heuermann's vehicle, the first edition Chevrolet Avalanche, was found by police. Suffolk County Police Department was working along with the Sheriff's Department in South Carolina. Once they realized that Rex Heuermann had burner phones that was linked to a cell tower near his Massapequa Park home, and the Chevrolet Avalanche was used in that area, they linked it to his property in Chester, South Carolina.
Police also looked at Heuermann's personal cell phone records and determined that his cell phone was in the same area as all of the burner phones that were used to contact the victims, Midtown Manhattan and Massapequa Park.
During the investigation, Rex Heuermann's personal cell phone was found in the same location as the burner phones, here in Massapequa Park, where his home is, and here in Midtown Manhattan, where his office is located.
In addition to all of that, police received surveillance footage of Heuermann making payments to a burner phone at a store near his office.
So here is Rex Heuermann's Midtown office, and there was a cell phone store Rex went to purchase more minutes on his burner phone in Midtown Manhattan. Oh my God, it's a complete smoking gun that he had bought more minutes on his burner phone. Of course he did, because he's calling these poor young girls 16, 17, 18 times in a row. So he obviously needed more minutes for that.
With mounting evidence, police began to tail Heuermann.
The pizza crust was actually what got him arrested. Apparently, Rex had eaten some pizza for lunch. He put the crust and the remaining pizza in the trash bin outside his office, and police were able to match the DNA on the pizza crust to a hair that was found on one of the victims that revealed a match.
Investigators collected a pizza box he threw out in a trash can outside of his office in Midtown. DNA on the crust was consistent with a DNA profile found on a male hair discovered on one of the victims' bodies.
During the investigation, police found pizza crust in a trash bin right near Rex Heuermann's office, right around here.
The DNA proved to be a 99.96% match to the hair found on the Gilgo Beach victim.
The fact that the DNA from the pizza crust matched the hair that was found on the victim, it's a no-brainer. They got their guy.
With DNA evidence, along with cell phone records linking Heuermann to the burner phones, and the discovery of the Chevy Avalanche, police made an arrest.
So these maps look like Manhattan and Massapequa Park. Let's take a closer look at the arrest. So Rex had been working all day at his Midtown office on West 36th Street, and he was leaving his office, heading to Penn Station, and all of a sudden he was swarmed by police officers, and I believe they were undercover, and that's when he was arrested. And it was breaking news.
And we are following breaking news. A major break in a cold case.
In July 2023, police descended upon Heuermann as he left his Manhattan office and made the arrest.
Here is Rex Heuermann's office, and he was arrested right outside of it. So Rex pleaded not guilty to all these charges. We live in America, you're innocent until proven guilty. However, there was a lot of evidence pointing to him. After Rex was arrested in July 2023, he was charged with 3 murders. The first 3 girls of the Gilgo 4, 6 months later, the 4th victim.
In connection with the death of Maureen Brainard Barnes.
And then months later, he was charged with 2 more murders, Jessica Taylor and a young woman by the name of Sandra Castillo. The case goes back as far as 1993, but this past summer, Rex Heuermann was linked to Sandra's murder.
In addition to those 6 victims, in December 2024, Heuermann was charged with the murder of a 7th victim, Valerie Mack, whose partial remains were found in November 2000 on Long Island. She was initially known as Jane Doe No. 6.
The 7th victim was identified as a Jane Doe. Some of the remains were found in Manorville, which is a very remote area in Suffolk County, easy to dump a body. And then the rest of the remains were located on Ocean Parkway. This Jane Doe was identified as Valerie Mack. When Rex was getting charged with murder, there was so much going on. There was search warrants being executed at his home in Massapequa Park. There was search crews going through the weeds and the marsh in Manorville, where some of his victims' remains were. And Daily Mail was right there. They were at the house. They were in the thicket and Oak Beach and Gilgo Beach and Manorville, where these crews were searching for evidence and victims. We were there the whole time. I mean, it was unreal.
Back in Massapequa at his home, police began to raid his property, looking for as much evidence as possible.
After Rex was arrested, his wife and his 2 children, Christopher and Victoria, had to leave the property. It is unclear exactly where they went, but police literally took apart the entire house from top to bottom. They went into the backyard. There were bulldozers. There were crime scene vehicles. It was so comprehensive, and it was weeks that the media stood there every single day, taking pictures and documenting every container that was removed out of Rex Heuermann's house. I am pinning Rex Heuermann's home in Massapequa Park. The crews would stay there at least 9 to 10 hours a day, just carrying out paintings, furniture, digital evidence, dolls. He had guns in the house, up to 200. It was just unreal. During the search warrant that went on for weeks, people from all over Long Island who were into true crime would come and visit the crime scene. They couldn't get too close to the house, but they would come with their cameras and videos and take pictures and just document what they were seeing in real time. Some podcasters were coming and filming at the scene. It was just unreal what was taking place.
Perhaps most disturbing, police uncovered a Microsoft Word document they say Heuermann used to blueprint and plan out his kills, which was created in 2000 and frequently updated.
Detectives found a planning document that Rex Heuermann had been using. It was a basically how to kill guide. The document was how to select the victims, how to kill them, and how to dispose of them. Everything he could think of was in that document, from what weapon to use, how to get rid of DNA evidence. It really gave you a sense of what was going through Rex Heuermann's mind. It was like a blueprint for him, and it was typed on a computer, going through every possible scenario once he met the victim until they were dead. I think that Rex was extremely meticulous. Based on other people who had an interaction with him, he was confrontational, maybe a bit of a narcissist. He was so detail-oriented that everything was in that document.
2 forensic labs have confirmed that hairs on 6 of the 7 victims are forensically tied to Heuermann, members of his immediate family, or others he lived with.
I mean, thank God for genealogy today, because a lot of the victims would have never been discovered. This is the courthouse where Rex has been spending a lot of time since he has been arrested. Every few months, there is a hearing at the court to find out what will be Rex Heuermann's fate. Let's take a closer look at the trial. So the courthouse is in Suffolk County. It's called the Arthur M. Cromedy Criminal Courthouse, and the courthouse is on the 4th floor. I am pinning the courthouse, which is right here in Suffolk County.
Heuermann was arraigned in Suffolk County Court in Riverhead, New York. He pled not guilty.
It doesn't matter what I think, whether he's guilty or not. The evidence will tell you otherwise. During one of his hearings, Rex said, "Your Honor, I am not guilty of these crimes." That was the first time anyone in 2 years ever heard Rex Heuermann speak. And considering like his appearance, his voice is so different. I thought it would have been deeper.
Rex Heuermann, I'm an architect, I'm an architectural consultant, I'm a troubleshooter.
I just did not expect it to sound the way it did.
The judge ordered him to await trial in the Suffolk County Jail without bail.
I believe the jail is behind the courthouse, somewhere around here.
On Friday, March 28, 2025, the judge in this case kicked off what is called a Fry hearing, examining whether DNA evidence is permissible in this case.
The Fry hearing was on Friday, March 28th, 2025. The hearing was open to the public, and just getting into the courthouse, you had to have your media credentials. The security is very tight, and the district attorney is there, and Asa Ellerup is there, and her daughter, and...
Was Heuermann there?
Yes.
Did you see him?
I did. There's been a lot of hearings since Rex Heuermann was arrested, but Friday was a significant day because they had someone who was testifying. So Rex came in, and on Friday he got to sit in between his attorneys, and it was a long day of testimony and cross-examination.
The Fry hearing could last a few months.
The Fry hearing was basically talking about the crucial DNA evidence.
And the defense was trying to get it thrown out.
Exactly. And Asa Ellerup and her daughter Victoria, which is Rex's ex-wife and daughter, were there on Friday. I was sitting right behind them and just was waiting to see, what their reaction was, seeing Rex, coming out of the prison. It's emotional for the family to see a family member going through this, guilty or innocent. Asa seemed pretty composed, but I felt like their daughter Victoria seemed a little distressed and upset at times. I mean, how could she not? It's her father. It's just not a great situation. So since the Fry hearings just started and there's another one coming up, I would imagine that it's going to be over the next few months. These Fry hearings have to take place before the trial starts, and that is to be determined when that will be. So that is a hard time. We have Las Vegas on this map, and we have South Carolina on this map. Both of these maps are where Rex Heuermann apparently had some property. Let's take a look at the aftermath of this case.
Investigations spread to South Carolina and Las Vegas, where Heuermann owns property, with detectives there taking a new look at cases of reportedly missing women. Heuermann has not been charged in any additional investigations.
Those two properties were here and here. So during the press conferences that often happen after a hearing at the courthouse, me and some of the reporters did ask about whether Rex Heuermann was linked to any cases in both Las Vegas, Nevada, and South Carolina. And there is a number that people call in to, but nothing ever came to be in those areas. So the South Carolina property is a little strange because apparently Rex sold it to his wife, who became his ex-wife, who eventually sold it to Rex's brother. The home seems to still be in the family.
Heuermann's estranged wife, Asa Ellerup, filed for divorce shortly after Heuermann was arrested in July 2023. In early 2025, they had reached a divorce settlement.
So less than a week after Rex was arrested, his wife of over 20 years, Asa, filed for divorce. And just this past Friday, the divorce finalized, and Asa was in court with their daughter, Victoria. She seemed very calm, considering that she just finalized a divorce from her ex-husband, who might be the Long Island serial killer. So Robert Macedonio is Asa's attorney. It's finalized, and maybe Asa seems very calm because she's possibly relieved that this is behind her now and that she can move on. I think, like all America, particularly Long Islanders, want to know how this case will end. When this case is going to go through trial, is there an end in sight? Will Rex eventually plead guilty? Will there be more victims found? Will Asa sell her home and move elsewhere? There's just so many things that we still need answers for, and I will be there reporting on it every step of the way.